The twin suns burned high above the red desert.
Heat waves danced on the sand like ghosts.
Nothing moved for miles. No sound, no life, only silence and fire. Ethan Cole walked alone through the endless dunes, his boots sinking deep into the dry dust. His face was covered with a torn cloth and his eyes hid behind cracked goggles. His ship had crashed 2 days ago. His water pack was almost empty. His radio had gone silent. Every step hurt. His throat was dry like stone. His mind whispered, "Keep walking, keep moving," but his legs felt heavy, like metal chains held them down. He stopped on a ridge and looked around. The land looked the same in every direction. Red, flat, and cruel. Somewhere out there maybe there was a small hope. A shadow, a rock, anything that meant life. Then he heard it. A sound. At first he thought it was the wind. But the sound came again, faint, soft, carried by the dry air, a voice. "Please. Help my mommy." Ethan froze. The words were clear. A child's voice. He turned, scanning the dunes. Nothing. Only the red horizon. He pulled off one of his ear covers, and maybe he was hearing things. Maybe the heat was playing tricks. Then he heard it again, louder this time. "Please, help her." Ethan's heart started to beat faster. He ran toward the sound, stumbling, sliding down a hill of red sand. His boots hit small stones, sending dust flying. He reached the bottom and saw movement. A small figure standing beside a rock formation shaped like claws rising from the ground. It was a child, but not a human child. The little one's skin had a faint silver glow. Like moonlight on water, 2 small antennae rose from the head, and the eyes, and wide and shining, were bright blue, almost too bright. The child's hands were trembling. Ethan stopped a few meters away. He didn't want to scare the kid. "Hey, it's okay," he said slowly. "I won't hurt you." The child looked at him with fear and hope mixed together. You're human?" the child asked in a weak voice. Ethan blinked. "Yeah, I'm human." The child pointed toward the rocks. "Then please help my mommy. They tied her there. She's dying in the sun." Ethan's stomach twisted. He followed the child's finger and saw her. An alien woman was tied to a large rock under the burning light. Her body was covered in rope-like cords that glowed faintly blue. Her skin shimmered and her hair, long and pale, spread across the rock like melted silver. She wasn't moving. Ethan ran closer, the hot air biting his face. The ropes around her weren't normal. They looked alive, like they were pulsing with energy. The woman's chest rose and fell weakly. She was still breathing. He kneeled beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her skin was burning from the sun, and strange marks were carved into her arms, glowing symbols he didn't understand. He grabbed the rope to untie it, but a sharp sound cut through the air. Zap! A bright red beam hit the sand near his hand. Ethan jumped back, eyes wide. A second beam cut the air beside his leg. He looked up, but there was nothing. No shooter, just the cliffs high above, empty and silent. The child screamed, "They're watching! Don't stop! Please help her!" Ethan's heart raced. He dropped flat to the ground, scanning the sky. He could feel it, and something was tracking him. He reached again for the ropes. The beam came again, closer this time, burning a hole in the rock near his arm. He could smell the heat. Sweat ran down his face. Come on," he muttered, pulling a knife from his belt. He slashed at the glowing ropes, but they were strong, almost like steel. He pressed harder, cutting and pulling. The light in the cords began to flicker. The woman let out a small cry, soft, broken but alive. Then suddenly the rope snapped and the glow vanished. The woman gasped and opened her eyes. Ethan stepped back in shock. Her eyes were golden, bright, deep, and full of fear. She looked at him as if seeing something impossible. "You," she whispered. "You're human?" "Yeah," he said, breathing hard. "You're safe now." Her face twisted in panic. No, you shouldn't have freed me." Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" She grabbed his arm weakly. "They'll come for you now. You don't understand. By freeing me breaks the law of the sky." Ethan stared at her, confused. "Law of the sky?" Her eyes looked toward the burning suns. "They will see. They always see." A deep hum echoed in the air. The ground trembled beneath them. Ethan turned and saw 3 small shadows flying above, dark, round, and moving fast. Drones. Red lights blinked under them like angry eyes. The child grabbed his hand. "Run!" Ethan looked at the woman, still too weak to stand. He lifted her onto his back and ran toward the dunes. The drones followed, lasers charging with deadly light. As he ran, the woman whispered again, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you've done, human. You just changed everything." Above them, the suns burned brighter and the red desert roared with wind. The chase had begun. The red desert shook with every step Ethan took. The twin suns glared from above, turning the world into fire. Behind him, the sound of humming engines grew louder. The drones were coming. He ran with the alien woman on his back and the child close behind, his heart beating like thunder. The woman's skin was hot, her breathing shallow. The ropes had left glowing marks on her arms that still pulsed faintly. "Keep running," Ethan shouted to the child. The little one nodded, tears mixing with dust. "They'll catch us if we stop." A sharp beam of light tore through the air, hitting the sand beside them. The ground exploded, throwing dust into Ethan's face. He coughed and stumbled forward, nearly falling. The drones swooped low. 3 of them, silver, round, and alive with red energy. They moved like predators, circling above the trio. Each drone had a glowing eye that blinked fast, scanning for movement. Ethan dropped behind a large rock, breathing hard. The woman lay beside him, weak but conscious now. "Who are they?" he asked between gasps. Her voice was faint but steady. "Wardens. The guards of the High Order. They hunt traitors." Ethan frowned. "You mean they hunt you?" She nodded slowly. "And now, they'll hunt you too." He peeked over the rock. The drones were moving closer, scanning the sand. He checked his belt, only a dull knife and a flare. No gun, no communicator, just luck and desperation. "Stay here," he said to the woman. "I'll draw them away." Before she could answer, Ethan stood and waved his arms. "Hey, over here, you floating trash cans." The nearest drone turned instantly, its red eye glowing brighter. A beam shot toward him. He ducked, rolled, and threw the flare as hard as he could. It hit the sand and burst in bright orange fire. The drones changed direction, confused for a moment by the heat signal. Ethan took that second to grab a handful of stones and throw them at another drone. It wasn't much, but the noise distracted it just enough. He ran back to the woman and the child. "Now move!" They ran together, the woman limping but still trying. Ethan held her arm to keep her steady. After a few minutes, they reached a cluster of sharp red rocks rising from the ground like giant claws. Ethan helped them squeeze into a narrow gap between the stones. The space was small and dark, but enough to hide them for now. The drones circled above, red lights flashing. One hovered close, scanning the area. The humming sound made Ethan's heart pound in his ears. The woman whispered, "Don't breathe. They sense heat." They stayed still as statues. The drone's light moved across the rocks, then slowly drifted away. After a few long minutes, the sound faded into the distance. Only silence remained. Ethan leaned back, wiping sweat from his face. His hands were shaking. "That was too close," he muttered. The child crawled to the woman and hugged her tightly. "Mommy, you're okay." She smiled weakly and touched the child's hair. "You did well, my little one." Then she turned to Ethan. "You shouldn't have helped me. It breaks their law. Humans are not meant to interfere." Ethan frowned. "Law? What law? I don't even know who they are." She looked at him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "The High Order of Asterion. They rule this world. They say humans brought chaos long ago, so your kind was erased. Only their word is law now." Ethan blinked. "Erased? That's not possible." She nodded. "To them, humans are ghosts of the past." For a moment, silence filled the small space. The sound of wind outside was soft, like a whisper of old memories. Ethan looked at her again. "Why were you tied out there?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Because I broke my promise. I helped a human once, years ago. They said it was treason. So they punished me, left me under the suns to die." Ethan felt a chill despite the heat. "You helped someone like me, and they wanted you dead for it?" She nodded slowly. "The Wardens serve the law. Mercy is forbidden." Ethan sat beside her, his eyes filled with confusion and anger. "Then I guess I just broke their law, too." Her eyes widened slightly. "You don't understand what that means." "Maybe not," Ethan said, standing up and looking toward the desert beyond the rocks. "But if they think I'm going to let them kill you or your kid, they'll have to come and try." The child looked up at him, eyes wide with hope. Will you protect us? Ethan smiled faintly, tired but determined. Yeah, I'll try. Outside, the red sky began to shift. Strange clouds of silver dust rolled in, and distant lightning flickered on the horizon, silent but powerful. Lyra's face grew pale. That's not a storm, she whispered. That's them. They're coming again. Ethan gripped his knife tighter. His reflection glowed faintly in the blade. Then let them come. The wind howled, filling the cave with strange low sounds, like whispers from another world. And far above, unseen eyes watched from the sky, waiting for the right moment to strike. The desert was no longer quiet. The wind had changed. It carried a strange humming sound that made the rocks tremble. The red sky above was twisting, and streaks of silver light moved like veins across the clouds. Ethan stood near the entrance of the rocky shelter, his knife in hand. The air felt heavy, almost alive. Behind him, Lyra sat weakly against the wall, her child sleeping beside her. He turned to her. That storm? It doesn't look natural. Lyra's golden eyes lifted toward the sky. It isn't. The Wardens never stop hunting. When they fail to capture, they call the storm. It finds what they cannot, Ethan frowned. You mean that thing in the sky is alive? Lyra nodded slowly. It's part of them, part of their network. The storm is their eye. The sound outside grew louder. Lightning flashed, but instead of thunder, there was a low vibration, deep and cold. The ground under their feet started to shake. The child woke up and clung to Lyra's arm. Mommy, I'm scared. She pulled the child close. Stay calm, my little one. Don't look outside. Ethan didn't listen. He moved closer to the cave mouth and peeked out. The world had turned dark red. The two suns were now hidden behind thick metallic clouds, and then he saw them, shapes moving in the dust. Dozens of tall figures walking in silence. They had long limbs, glowing joints, and blank faces made of glass. Each one carried a staff that pulsed with red light. Wardens, Ethan's breath caught. They're on the ground now. Lyra's voice trembled. They will search every stone, every shadow. They can smell my energy. And yours. Mine? Ethan turned. Why mine? She looked at him carefully, as if studying something she didn't understand. Your body holds a signal. I felt it when you untied me. You're not just a man lost in the desert. Ethan shook his head. I'm just a pilot. My ship crashed, that's all. No, she whispered. The Wardens reacted the moment you touched me. That means you carry an ancient mark and the one forbidden by the High Order. He frowned. What kind of mark? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and touched his chest. Her fingers glowed faintly, and for a moment, his skin shimmered with soft blue light. The mark appeared, and a small symbol, burned into his flesh long ago, shaped like a circle with 3 lines across it. Lyra gasped. It's true. You're one of them. One of who? One of the Earthborn soldiers. The last humans who fought before the Great Silence. Ethan felt cold all over. That's impossible. Earth was destroyed. Yes, Lyra said softly. That's what they told us, but you're proof they lied. Before he could speak, a bright light swept across the cave entrance. The Wardens had arrived. Ethan ducked behind a rock as beams of red light cut through the dust. He heard metal feet scraping the sand. Lyra closed her eyes and placed both hands on the ground. The air inside the cave began to hum. I can hide us for a short time, she said, her voice shaking. But it will cost me strength. Do it, Ethan said. I'll keep them away. No, she said quickly. If you fight, they'll know where we are. Stay still. Don't breathe. She whispered words in a strange language, and the glow from her hands spread across the floor like liquid light. A thin veil of energy surrounded them, almost invisible but powerful. Outside, the Wardens passed by. Their eyes blinked red as they scanned the rocks. One stopped and turned toward the cave, pausing for several seconds. Ethan's heart pounded. He could hear the low whine of its sensors, searching. Then it moved away. The light faded. The storm began to drift east, following the Wardens. Lyra fell forward, exhausted. Her skin dimmed, her breathing uneven. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Hey, stay with me. She looked up weakly. We can't stay here. When the storm returns, it will find us again. Where do we go? Ethan asked. To the Shadowlands, she whispered. There is an old place there. A ruin from your people. It's the only safe place left. Ethan stared at her. You know where that is? She nodded faintly. Yes. I went there once, long ago, when I helped another human. The child tugged at Ethan's sleeve. You'll take us there, right? Ethan looked down at the small face, tired, scared, yet hopeful. Yeah, we'll go together. He stepped outside and looked at the horizon. The storm was fading, but the sky still burned red. In the far distance, something flashed, a metallic tower half buried in sand. Maybe that was the ruin she spoke of. He turned back to Lyra and lifted her gently. Come on, we move before sunset. The wind howled again as they began their journey. The sand blew around them, painting the world in red and gold. Lyra's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Ethan, if the High Order finds you, they won't just kill you. They'll erase your name from history. Ethan smiled faintly. Then they'll have to catch me first. Behind them, the storm gathered once more, silent, watching, waiting. And in the distance, under the blood-red sky, the ruins of something ancient began to glow, as if welcoming an old ghost home. The night on the red planet was never quiet. The twin suns had set, but the land still glowed faintly as if the heat refused to die. Faint winds whispered through the dunes, carrying strange metallic echoes. Ethan walked in silence, his steps careful and slow. Lyra leaned weakly on his arm, her child close behind, holding a small crystal that shone with soft blue light. It was their only guide in the darkness. The ruins were close now. Ethan could see broken towers half buried in the sand, old metal bones of a forgotten world. Lyra's voice broke the silence. These ruins once belonged to your people, long ago before the High Order came. Ethan frowned. How do you know that? I studied them in secret, she whispered. They say humans built the stars but then destroyed themselves. Yet I never believed it. The walls here still hum with your energy. They reached the edge of the ruins, tall rusted walls shaped like circles with symbols carved deep into the metal. Ethan ran his hand over the strange letters. His suit scanner blinked for the first time since the crash. Signal detected. Origin. Earth fleet. Ethan froze. This is human technology, Lyra nodded. Yes, you see now why I helped you. You're not a lost traveler, Ethan. You're a ghost from the age they tried to erase. Before he could answer, a sharp sound echoed through the ruins, a distant metallic click. Ethan turned quickly. We're not alone. The child grabbed his leg. They followed us. Lyra's eyes widened. The Wardens never stop. Once they mark a trail, they chase until the end. Ethan scanned the shadows. Shapes moved between the broken pillars, tall, thin, and glowing red. The Wardens were here. He crouched low, pulling Lyra and the child behind a fallen wall. Stay down. Don't make a sound. The Wardens moved like silent ghosts, their bodies shining faintly under the stars. Their eyes glowed like red coals scanning the sand. Every step they took made the ground hum. Ethan gritted his teeth. He knew hiding wouldn't last forever. He had no gun, only his knife and his wits. Then something strange happened. One of the Wardens stopped and turned its head, looking directly at him through the darkness. Its eyes flashed white for a moment, then red again. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. It's scanning my mind. Lyra touched his shoulder. Don't think. Just breathe. They use fear to locate emotion. He tried to stay calm, but his pulse raced faster. The Wardens began to move toward their position. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered something in her native tongue. The ground beneath them vibrated softly. Small glowing symbols appeared around their hiding place in a protective field. The Wardens stopped, confused. Their red eyes blinked, flickering in the strange light. Then one of them raised its hand. The air shimmered, and a burst of red energy shot forward, breaking the barrier apart. The explosion threw Ethan back. Sand and dust filled the air. He coughed, grabbing the child and pulling them behind a pillar. Lyra fell to the ground, weak and pale. I can't hold them off much longer. Ethan stood up, fury burning in his chest. Then I will. He ran toward the nearest Warden, dodging a beam that sliced the air beside him. He leaped onto the broken metal wall and jumped down, stabbing his knife deep into the machine's neck. Sparks flew and the Warden collapsed, its red light fading. The others turned toward him. Ethan pulled the blade free, breathing hard. Come on, you metal freaks! Another beam shot past, grazing his arm. Pain burned, but he didn't stop. He ran again, sliding under one of them and slashing at its legs. The creature fell with a loud crash. The last Warden aimed its weapon at him. Ethan had no time to move. But before the beam fired, Lyra lifted her hand weakly and shouted a word that echoed like thunder. A burst of blue light exploded from her palm, striking the warden and turning it into glowing dust. The sound faded and silence filled the ruins once more. Ethan turned to her. "You saved me." Lyra fell to her knees, her body trembling. "I used what little power I had left." The child ran to her, crying softly. "Mommy, please don't die." Lyra smiled faintly. "I won't, not yet." Ethan helped her sit up. The ruins around them were glowing softly now, reacting to her energy. He looked around. They knew this place. "They were trying to stop us from coming here." Lyra nodded. "Because beneath these ruins lies something hidden, a secret they fear." "What kind of secret?" Ethan asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "The memory of Earth." He stared at her, not understanding. "There's a vault below us," she said. "Buried deep under the sand. It holds the truth about what really happened to your people, and maybe a way to bring them back." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Then we dig?" Lyra smiled weakly. "No need. The vault opens for one thing only, the blood of a human born from the first world." She touched his arm. "That means you, Ethan." He looked down at the metal floor that now glowed faintly under his boots. The lines were forming a circle, spreading wider and brighter. Lyra whispered, "You've awakened it." The ground shook again and a hidden door began to rise, releasing a breath of cold air from the darkness below. Ethan stared into the deep tunnel, feeling something old, something human, calling to him. The hunt was over, but what waited below might be worse than the Wardens themselves. The metal floor opened with a deep hiss, revealing a dark passage leading deep below the desert ruins. A cold wind rose from it, strange, not of this world. It carried the scent of metal, dust, and time. Ethan stared into the hole. "What's down there?" Lyra's voice was faint. "The vault of lost Earth, a place where your kind once hid the last of their truth." The child looked frightened. "Is it safe?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No one knows. No one who entered ever came back." Ethan tightened the strap on his belt and turned on his dim flashlight. "Then it's about time someone did." He helped Lyra stand, and together they descended the spiral stairs that led into the darkness. The metal under their feet groaned softly, like the place itself was waking up after centuries of sleep. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The walls glowed faintly with blue veins of energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This doesn't look alien," Ethan said quietly. "It looks human." Lyra nodded. "Because it is. This was your ancestors' last creation before the High Order erased them. They called it the Memory Vault." When they reached the bottom, the space opened into a massive chamber. Ethan stopped and stared. The room was vast, larger than any hangar he had ever seen. Giant machines hung from the ceiling, covered in thick dust. Transparent tubes lined the walls, filled with fog and the faint shapes of people. "Are those?" Ethan whispered. "Humans," Lyra said softly. "Frozen. Waiting." He stepped closer to one of the tubes. Inside was a man in uniform, old but perfectly preserved. His badge said Earth Defense Unit. Ethan's chest tightened. "This can't be real." "It is," Lyra said. "When the final war began, your people built this place to save what remained. The Wardens were made to guard it, but they turned against their makers." Ethan felt his knees go weak. "So that's what happened. We didn't destroy ourselves. We were erased." Lyra placed a hand on the glass. "The High Order rewrote history. They told every world that humans burned their own home, but the truth was buried here." Suddenly, a light flickered across the room. One of the machines came alive with a faint hum. A voice echoed through the chamber, calm, cold, and familiar. Identity detected. Captain Ethan Cole, Earth Fleet. Mission incomplete. Ethan froze. The voice spoke his name. The light grew brighter. From the center of the chamber, a holographic figure appeared. A man made of blue light wearing the same Earth Fleet uniform as Ethan. "Welcome back, Captain," it said. "You have been reactivated." Ethan took a step forward. "Who are you?" "I am Echo 9, Memory AI of the Human Preservation Program. You were part of the final defense unit before extinction." Lyra looked between them, confused. "He doesn't remember any of this." Echo 9 turned toward Ethan. "Your memory was locked before stasis. You were sent to locate surviving colonies, but your ship crashed before the mission could finish." Ethan shook his head slowly. "You're saying I've been asleep? For centuries?" Yes, the AI replied. You are the last known soldier of the Earth fleet. Lyra's golden eyes widened. That's why the Wardens chased you. You carry the key to reawakening humanity. The AI's voice grew louder. The vault awaits your command, Captain. Do you wish to restart the human program? Ethan stared at the frozen people inside the tubes, men, women, children, all silent, trapped in time. His heart pounded. If I do, what happens to the High Order? Echo 9 answered without emotion. Their systems are built upon stolen human technology. A restart would overwrite them. Their rule would end. Lyra looked alarmed. That would mean war. The Wardens would destroy this planet to stop you. The child tugged on Ethan's jacket. Will it hurt, Mommy? Ethan knelt beside the child. I don't know. But I can't let a lie rule forever. He stood up and faced the AI. If I start this, will the people in the tubes live again? Yes, said Echo 9, but the process cannot be undone. It will awaken all human facilities across the sector. The High Order will see it as rebellion. Ethan's mind raced. He looked at Lyra, exhausted, trembling, but still strong. You saved me when you didn't have to. Maybe it's time I return the favor. She met his eyes, a mix of fear and hope. Then do what your heart tells you, Ethan Cole of Earth. He placed his hand on the glowing panel in front of him. The surface scanned his palm and a low tone filled the air. Activation confirmed. The walls began to vibrate. The fog in the tube started to clear. One by one, the frozen humans inside began to move slightly, as if taking their first breaths in centuries. Lyra gasped. It's working. But then the ground shook violently. The AI's voice glitched. Warning. External intrusion detected. Warden fleet approaching. Ethan's face hardened. They found us. The lights above flashed red. Distant explosions echoed from above the surface. The Wardens were descending. Ethan turned to Lyra and the child. Get to the inner tunnel. Go now. What about you? She asked. He looked at the awakening humans around him. Someone has to protect them. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. We'll come back for you, Ethan. The AI's voice grew urgent. Captain, defense systems offline. Manual override required. Ethan grabbed his knife and ran toward the console. The vault's lights flickered around him like stars being born. Above, the sky of the red planet began to burn again, the hunters returning for their prey. But this time, the last human was ready. The vault shook like the heart of a waking giant. The floor split in places and sparks rained from the machines above. Red warning lights flashed across the walls. The sound of sirens mixed with the rising hum of power returning after centuries of silence. Ethan ran toward the control platform, his boots echoing on the metal floor. The AI's voice followed him, cold but calm. Alert. Warden fleet entering atmosphere. Impact in 4 minutes. Lyra held the frightened child close near the entrance of the inner tunnel. They're coming, she whispered. They'll destroy everything. Ethan's hands flew across the control screen, searching for defense commands. Most of the system was locked, but one section still glowed green. Human Defense Protocol Manual Override. Echo 9, Ethan shouted. How do I activate the defenses? The holographic figure appeared beside him, flickering. Captain, most systems are decayed. Only local defense turrets remain operational. They require manual startup. Where are they? Level 2, West Corridor. Ethan turned to Lyra. Take the kid. Stay low, I'll buy us time. She stepped forward, eyes wide. You'll be killed. He gave her a small, tired smile. Then I'll make sure it counts. He sprinted toward the West Corridor, the air thick with dust and electricity. As he passed the frozen human tubes, he saw movement. Faces turning, eyes opening. The long dead were waking. The ground trembled again. A distant explosion roared from above. Then came the sound. A deep mechanical scream that made the walls vibrate. The Wardens had arrived. Outside the vault, the desert split open as giant ships descended through the clouds. Each ship looked like a black wing, stretching across the red sky. From their bellies, hundreds of Wardens fell like burning stars, landing near the ruins. Their glowing red eyes turned toward the ground, toward the vault. Inside, Lyra felt the energy change. Her own body glowed faintly blue, reacting to the ancient human technology. The child clung to her. Mommy, the air feels alive. Yes, she said softly. The vault remembers. She placed her hand on the floor, feeling the hum of energy beneath her. Ethan woke something old, something powerful. Meanwhile, Ethan reached level 2. The hall was filled with dust and broken lights, but he saw the defense console glowing at the end. He ran to it and slammed his hand on the control pad. The AI's voice echoed again. Authorization confirmed. Defense turrets online. A deep rumble rolled through the vault as hidden panels opened along the ceiling. Ancient cannons emerged, their metal surfaces gleaming for the first time in centuries. Ethan smirked. Let's see what you can do. Then came the impact. The Wardens broke through the outer gate, flooding the corridors in a river of red light. They moved fast, their weapons humming. Ethan ducked behind a console as a beam scorched the wall above him. He grabbed a fallen pipe and threw it at the nearest Warden's head. It hit hard, cracking the glass faceplate. Sparks flew. He sprinted toward the controls and slammed another switch. The cannons rotated, locking onto the intruders. Boom! A blast of energy tore through the hallway, vaporizing 3 Wardens at once. The recoil shook the ground. Ethan shielded his face from the heat. The cannons fired again and again. The vault roared like a sleeping beast now awake. But the Wardens kept coming. For every one destroyed, 2 more appeared. Their leader, taller than the rest with silver armor and golden markings, stepped forward through the fire. Target located. Human origin, it said in a deep metallic voice. Eliminate. Ethan backed away, breathing hard. You'll have to try harder than that. The Warden leader raised its arm and a sphere of red energy formed in its hand. Before it could fire, a bright blue light cut through the air. Lyra appeared at the end of the corridor, her eyes glowing like stars. The child stood behind her holding the small crystal. Ethan's jaw dropped. Lyra, what are you doing here? She lifted her hand and energy rippled outward like a wave. The blue light struck the Wardens, freezing them mid-step. Their red eyes flickered in confusion. I told you I wouldn't let you face them alone, she said, her voice echoing with power. Ethan ran to her side. You'll burn out your energy. She smiled faintly. Then I'll burn for something worth saving. Together, they fought. Ethan took down the wounded machines with his knife and scraps of metal, while Lyra unleashed bursts of pure light. Each wave tore through the enemy ranks, scattering them like dust, but the leader was still standing. It raised its arm again and shot a beam straight at Lyra. Ethan jumped in front of her. The blast hit his chest, throwing him backward into a metal wall. He fell coughing, the pain burning through him. Lyra screamed and ran to him. Her hands glowed, pressing against his wound. Don't you dare die, human! The leader aimed again, then something deep inside the vault responded to her cry. The floor lit up beneath them, forming a glowing symbol, the same mark that burned on Ethan's skin. A voice echoed through the chamber, not the AI, but older, deeper. Human and ally detected. Energy bond complete. Light exploded outward, blinding the entire corridor. When the light faded, the leader Warden was gone. Only ashes remained. Lyra collapsed beside Ethan, exhausted. The vault's machines were now fully awake, humming with new power. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. The wound was gone. Lyra's energy had healed him, he whispered. You saved me again. She smiled weakly. We saved each other. Above them, Echo 9's voice returned. Captain, the vault is secure. The first humans have begun revival. Ethan stood looking at the awakening chamber. Rows of humans were stirring, breathing again. The war had only just begun, but something had changed. Humanity was no longer lost. Lyra's voice trembled as she looked up at the glowing machines. The Wardens will come again. Ethan nodded, eyes hard. Then we'll be ready. This time we're not alone. The vault's lights grew brighter, casting golden light across their faces. A light that had not touched this planet in 1,000 years. The rebirth of Earth had begun. The first sunrise after the battle was strange. The sky, once red and broken, now glowed gold. Dust hung in the air like fireflies. The vault stood half open in the middle of the desert, its machines alive again, humming with quiet energy. Ethan stood at the entrance, staring at the horizon. His uniform was torn, his face marked with soot, but his eyes burned with something new. Purpose. Below, the humans were waking. Hundreds of cryotubes had opened, releasing fog that shimmered like mist. Men and women stepped out slowly, confused and weak. They looked around at the alien sky and the metal walls, unsure if they were dreaming. Lyra stood beside Ethan, her skin still faintly glowing from the energy she had used. Her child clung to her leg, eyes wide in wonder. "They're alive again," Ethan whispered. "After all this time," Lyra nodded softly. "The vault kept them safe for centuries. You gave them back the light." Ethan looked at her. "Not me, us," the AI's voice echoed from the ceiling. "Captain Ethan Cole. Revival process complete. 1,072 survivors reactivated. Awaiting command." Ethan glanced at the crowd of newly awakened humans. They were afraid, whispering among themselves, staring at Lyra and her child. Some looked ready to fight. A man with gray hair stepped forward. His uniform was old but still bore the symbol of Earth's fleet. "Captain Cole?" he said, his voice shaky. "We thought Earth was gone." Ethan nodded. "It was. But the truth survived. And now, so have we." The man looked around. "What year is it?" Ethan hesitated. "Far beyond the one we knew. The High Order rules the stars now. They destroyed our home and rewrote our history. But that ends here." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Fear. Anger. Confusion. Lyra stepped forward. Her golden eyes met theirs. "You don't know me. I am Lyra of Asterion, a world that once served your kind. I was taught humans were monsters, until I met one who risked his life to save a stranger." The humans watched her quietly. Her voice carried through the chamber like music. "The Wardens will return. The High Order will send armies to erase this vault. But if you run, the stars will never remember who you were. If you fight, the galaxy will remember your name." Silence. Then someone in the crowd raised their hand, a woman in a tattered pilot suit. "Then we fight." More voices followed. "For Earth. For freedom. For the truth." The vault echoed with their cries, voices rising together like thunder. Ethan looked at Lyra and smiled. "You just started a rebellion." She smiled back faintly. "No, you did," the AI interrupted. "Warning. High Order fleet detected in upper atmosphere. Time to impact, 20 minutes. Ethan's smile faded. They didn't waste time. He turned to the crowd. "Everyone who can walk and arm yourselves. The vault has weapons and armor stored below. Get the wounded to the inner chambers. We hold the surface as long as we can." Humans rushed into motion, working together like they'd never stopped being soldiers. The vault's machines responded to their touch, recognizing old DNA, old codes. Ancient weapons hummed to life again. Lyra watched Ethan move among them, giving orders, helping the weak, calming the frightened. His voice carried strength, the kind of strength that made others believe again. The child tugged her hand. "Mommy, is he going to win?" Lyra knelt and smiled sadly. "He's going to try. And sometimes trying changes the universe." Minutes later, the sky tore open. The High Order fleet descended, massive ships shaped like blades, glowing red against the gold dawn. The ground trembled as Wardens poured from the sky, thousands of them, their armor shining. Ethan stood at the front line, wearing a half-broken chest plate and holding a plasma rifle from the vault's armory. Lyra stood beside him, her palms glowing bright blue. "You ready?" he asked. She smiled softly. "You humans are strange, always standing when you should fall." He grinned. "That's what makes us human." The first wave of Wardens landed. The battle began. Energy beams split the air. The ground exploded in flashes of red and white. Humans fought shoulder to shoulder, using old weapons and raw courage. Lyra raised her hand, sending waves of light that shattered Warden ranks like glass. The child hid in the inner tunnel, watching with wide eyes as the desert became a storm of fire and color. Ethan led the charge, shouting orders, pulling fallen soldiers to safety. His voice was hoarse but steady. "Push them back. Hold the line!" The Wardens fought fiercely, but something had changed. The humans didn't run. For the first time in centuries, they fought for their own story. Then the High Order's main ship descended, blotting out the sun. Its shadow covered the battlefield. Lyra looked up. That's their flagship, the heart of their rule. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then we end this now." He turned to the AI through his wrist link. "Echo 9, can the vault channel energy to that ship?" "Affirmative. Overload possible with manual trigger. Risk level fatal," Ethan nodded. "Do it!" Lyra grabbed his arm. "No, you'll die," he smiled. "Someone has to light the fire." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Don't make me lose another hope." He touched her face gently. "You gave me mine." Then he ran. He sprinted across the battlefield, dodging explosions, jumping over broken machines. He reached the central control beacon, a tall, glowing pillar rising from the sand. He slammed his hand against the interface. The mark on his chest glowed, merging with the symbol on the pillar. "Manual override confirmed," said Echo 9. The ground pulsed with light. Streams of energy shot upward, connecting the vault to the sky. The High Order's flagship trembled as golden light wrapped around it like chains. Ethan shouted into the wind, "For Earth!" The sky exploded. A wave of white light spread across the desert, wiping away the Wardens and shattering the ship above. The explosion was silent at first. Then came a roar that echoed across the world. When the light faded, the fleet was gone. Only silence remained. Lyra ran through the smoke, searching. She found Ethan lying near the shattered beacon, his armor scorched. He was breathing, and barely. She knelt beside him, tears falling. "You did it," he smiled weakly. "Told you. We'd show them what it means to be human." His eyes closed as the sun broke through the clouds, shining over the ruins in the reborn vault. Lyra held him close, whispering, "The stars will remember you." Above them, the humans raised their flags again, not of war, but of life, and far beyond the red planet. In the silent dark, other worlds began to wake, hearing, at last, the heartbeat of Earth once more.